Last week, the Prime Minister gave yet another threadbare excuse for why he and his North London lawyer friends are giving away the Chagos Islands. Mr. Speaker, this is his decision, and he must own it.
The entire British Parliament erupted as everyone took turns mocking and humiliating Starmer's blunders.
Honestly think that, Keir Starmer and other European leaders are feeling that pressure, but I don't think troops on the ground are gonna make the British public feel comfortable whatsoever. But to your point,
what he means, if he was ever to do that, I don't believe a word that comes out of the man's mouth.
Desperate Starmer and his European cronies are announcing hugely idiotic moves in Ukraine, and the public is concerned.
This is me just saying this. I can see the attraction with the Falklands. That's a
100%.
British interest and whatever.
Well, I nearly went
and
there.
that's why it worked for her.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Blair thing didn't work because no one cared less.
Yeah.
Labour's running away from allegations of corruption, but Starmer's Chagos deal got busted for shady business.
They presided over record high levels of immigration. Reached nearly 1 million. It was a one-nation experiment in open borders. And she was the cheerleader. She was the one campaigning for more people to come and thanking her own side when they supported her campaign. So before she lectures us, I think she needs to reflect on her own record here.
Keir Starmer arrogantly started whining in the Parliament, only to be brutally humbled by everyone.
The absolute archetype of an arrogant progressive fool. If we are serious about protecting our borders, we need to make sure we appoint people who believe in our country and everything we stand for. It is not clear the Attorney General does. The government is now recruiting a new Chief Inspector of Borders who lives in Finland and wants to work from home. This is not serious. Why should the British public put up with this?
A Kemi Badenoch made an utter fool out of Starmer and his cronies for completely breaching Britain's borders.
And it needs a level-headed assessment of the implications, which is what we're going through at the moment. But we will always put our national interest first and steelworkers first.
So, David, thank the Prime Minister for that reply. But it seems to me the way President Trump and his ally Musk are operating, they do need to hear strong measures and words from even their allies.
The Labour Party doesn't have a spine, and they're getting humiliated for being treated like useless fools by Trump.
I think we all fear where this could end and the dangerous implications for our defence and our security. So can the Prime Minister reassure this House that he and other European leaders have given sufficient support to President Zelensky so that he can't be bullied by Trump and Putin into accepting a deal that will effectively hand victory to Russia?
Britain's army and defence capabilities are a shadow of what they used to be, and this idiotic government is busy provoking war.
Prime Minister, I get it. Nobody wants to get into a trade war. But, unlike Peter Mandelson, sometimes you've got to stand up for what you believe in. My friends here in the DUP have learnt nothing from their mistake of backing Brexit and think that tariffs are a laughing matter. But would you agree with me that actually we need to stand up for ourselves, we need to back our workers, we need to back our businesses, not just in Lagan Valley, but indeed across the UK?
A man like Starmer, who has zero conviction and respect from the world, doesn't seem to have what it takes.
Share a strong and balanced trading relationship. We invest hugely in each other's economies, and we will continue to work closely with President Trump to boost growth and to create jobs. And I reassure her we will always act in the best interests of businesses and working people across the whole of the United Kingdom, including, of course, Northern Ireland.
Stuttering Starmer's idiotic got caught deflecting, as his response was nothing short of ridiculous and irrelevant.
The Prime Minister gave yet another threadbare excuse for why he and his North London lawyer friends are giving away the Chagos Islands. Mr. Speaker, this is his decision, and he must own it. More importantly, he can't tell us, the British taxpayer, how much this is going to cost. Is it 9 billion? Is it 18 billion? Is it 52 billion? The Times have called this botched deal insane. Members of his own cabinet reportedly think it's impossible to understand. And one of his own MPs think it's the worst thing the Labour Party have ever done.
In the recent, most disgusting betrayal of British interest, Starmer Chagos deal got exposed to be a lunatic scam.
What assurances
can the Prime Minister give my constituents that his government will put children before ideology and allow local authorities to tackle the shortage in SEND provision?
Well, I thank you for raising this vital issue. It's not the first time it's come up. We are supporting mainstream schools to increase SEND expertise.
The Labour Party and their cronies can't seem to prioritise the Brits over their appalling socialist ideology. As a direct result of this, we've seen the nation suffer in every possible way. In the peak example of Starmerism, his cronies have assaulted Britain from all sides, be it the economy, the society, or something as simple as the living standards. The PMQ eruption proved to be horrible for Starmer, as he didn't only get roasted and mocked, his shady deals were exposed, and now the entire nation is talking about them.
Well, where do we begin?
It's a hugely momentous day, I think. I think it'll make a lot of people incredibly nervous when they wake up and see the front pages of British troops being sent over potentially onto Ukrainian soil.
You're just talking nonsense. He's not going to do that.
There's a degree of posturing, admittedly, and I think it probably contextually comes after very recently we've had, J.D. Vance and Trump basically, if we cut it all down, calling out, EU nations, including Britain, for being kind of weak.
British people are getting used to waking up and seeing the most outrageous betrayals in the news. This time, Starmer has proven yet again how big of an idiot he is by announcing that he'll be sending British troops to Ukraine for peacekeeping. It cannot be understated just how dangerous and reckless this move is for various reasons. What happens if Putin sees this as a provocation? More importantly, there's the grim reality that we do not have the resources or manpower to pull off a stunt like this.
You've got to be really, really careful with this stuff because, it's been years now. There's been bloodshed, lives lost, and in terms of things looking like an escalation right at the 11th hour, I don't think
it won't be. I mean, I look at this, and here you have, whether we all like it or not, Trump has come to Putin and says, look, the only two people that matter in all of this, when there should be three, there should be Ukraine, obviously, or me and you, right? So we get an agreement between this, and then we'll just get on with things.
Starmer's playing with fire just to stroke his ego, and this insecure move could cost us immensely. The war in Ukraine has had devastating consequences, and countless innocent lives have been lost in the process. So ask yourself, is it really the best move to be sending in troops at this moment? Things are finally starting to calm down as Trump is taking charge and negotiating a deal of peace with Russia. The reality of the matter is that the Starmer and his European leaders are risking escalating just to sabotage Trump, and the British public is left baffled.
Honestly, I honestly think that, Keir Starmer and other European leaders are feeling that pressure, but I don't think troops on the ground are gonna make the British public feel comfortable whatsoever. But to your point,
what he means, if he was ever to do that, I don't believe a word that comes out of the man's mouth. But what he means is he's talking about people servicing machinery and administrative background people, whatever it is. Nothing. It'll not happen.
Starmer and the entire European Union are running scared by Trump's success. Just to show off that they're not completely powerless and useless, they're desperately trying to stay relevant. Sadly, this ill-advised move is far from what this country and the world needs right now. Nobody knows what they're actually plotting behind the scenes, but one thing is for sure, there is something shady going on. In the end, it could all be nothing more than a stupid bluff by Starmer that's going to earn him even more mockery.
Well, I mean, look, I think the real conversation, you saw a lot of ministers talking about it over the weekend on the Sunday political shows, is, defence spending. I mean, in terms of like the most acute moment in time since, Cold War and all that kind of stuff that's being chucked around at the moment, we are going to ultimately have to raise defence spending, but who's going to pay for that? Once again, that's the British taxpayer, and that might be quite a tough sell, but I think he's far better placed to start kind of narrowing down and rolling the pitch on that, rather than, to your point, chucking around pretty, hot and heavy inflammatory stuff about British troops.
The public is rightfully scared that if Starmer really is serious about deploying our troops, that could mean even more burden for the rest of us. Our defense budget is far from what it used to be, and we're simply outmatched in many ways. The military equipment is either outdated or just too worn down for us to be the great threat that we once were. If Starmer's going to turn that around, and he should, that'll only burden us with more taxes. Surely there's a better solution here, but Starmer's too tone deaf and delusional to see it.
Exactly, this is the other problem. So it's kicking off a row between Rachel Rayner and David Lammy about how we're going to repay for all of this thing. But it's like, the idiocy, the front page of the Telegraph in particular is, I'm going to protect the Ukraine from Russia. It's like,
full of it, absolutely full of it.
We can't even protect the Kent coast.
Do you believe this, Chris?
Delusional Starmer wants to play the hero when nobody's asking him to. He's arrogantly trying to step in and somehow save Ukraine when Trump has already done most of the work for him. Ask yourself, where is all the funding going to come from for this deployment? The answer, sadly, is that we'll have to endure another tax raid from Rachel Reeves. All the while, the standards of living in Britain will continue to plummet. At this point, it seems that we've bigger issues to deal with back home.
To you, and however cruel, however awful this is, British people do not care, by and large, what's happening in Ukraine.
I think you're right, and I think J.D. Vance, the Vice President of America, and Elon Musk are both hitting the nail on the head. It's like, you need to be more worried about the enemy within, and I do agree with that statement. And when we saw over the weekend that 14-year-old boy who lost his life in it was an Islamist attack in Austria, he was knifed.
America has issued a chilling warning for Britain and Europe. The real enemy is within, as we face an onslaught of woke nonsense coupled with socialist agendas by the Labour government. Britain is on the brink of collapse no matter how you look at it. Our economy is crumbling, the illegal immigration rates are out of control, crime is skyrocketing, and growth has been killed stone dead. We're in no shape to be making military threats until we deal with this Labour plague within our country first. To make matters worse, Ukraine isn't the only blunder Starmer's making. The foreign Chagos Island deal is just as shambolic.
I predict a massive political earthquake in the coming years because I think everyday people who don't obsessively follow the news or politics will begin to clock on for the first time about something that's not quite right about the way our country's being run. Let me point to Labour's Chagos Islands surrender as a prime example. How can you possibly explain to an everyday Joe that our government is absolutely obsessed with giving away sovereign British territory to a nation that's never owned that territory before, and we're paying them at least £9 billion of taxpayer money for the privilege?
The only reason that Starmer and his cronies seem to be getting away with this is because the average Brit doesn't have any time or energy to properly follow the news. There's a huge information gap and Labour is taking complete advantage of that. However, the public will see the huge consequences of that, but it might be too late by then. What Starmer is trying to do with the Chagos deal is a complete betrayal of the public, and even foreign prime ministers are mocking him for this idiotic move.
How do you square that? How do you justify giving away important strategic British territory and £9 billion in the process, while also telling pensioners they can't have winter fuel allowance because the government is skint? Soon, enough people are going to stand up and pay attention. And when it comes to Chagos, they should be.
Remember the endless whining we hear from Rachel Reeves and Starmer about a supposed £22 billion black hole in the public finances? Well, the black hole only seems to appear when it comes to hammering the British public with insane taxes, insurance hikes, and freezing the pensioners. On the other hand, they seem to have no problems whatsoever with throwing away millions upon millions of taxpayer money on useless climate change lunacy or foreign immigration projects. How hypocritical can this government get?
The former Mauritius PM, who masterminded our Chagos surrender deal, he's been arrested and hauled up in court on money laundering charges. Here he is, being dragged into court today. Pravind Jugnauth, the former Prime Minister of Mauritius. Authorities had earlier raided the home of his close associate, where they reportedly discovered suitcases filled with millions of pounds in cash, spanning more than a dozen currencies, along with luxury items including Rolex and Cartier watches. And, crucially, get this, UK visas.
If you thought that this deal couldn't get any more shady, think again, because there's some pretty damning evidence out. The guy that Starmer's been making deals with has been arrested for some pretty serious charges. Why is Sir Keir Starmer, the supposed man of integrity, making deals with a corrupt Prime Minister? The most concerning piece of evidence here are the UK visas that were seized. Countless rumours are flying around, but one thing is clear, Starmer has some serious questions to answer.
Meanwhile, Keir Starmer's good friend and confidant, Philippe Sands KC, has been head of legal counsel for Mauritius since 2010, acting for Mauritius. Here he is. Sands has acted against Britain, his own country, in 3 international cases, including the case for Britain to give up Chagos.
That's right, it gets significantly worse. People are raising questions as to why everyone involved in this deal are either cronies of Starmer or disgustingly corrupt. Is it not treason when a British lawyer is fighting against Britain's best interest in a bogus legal case? Even the Australian Prime Minister recognises that the Chagos Islands rightfully belong to Britain and all other claims are nonsense.
When you've been to an international court against your own country, won and humiliated them completely, they still celebrate you. And that is special. I mean, it's slightly said in jest, but how many other countries have the openness of mind and spirit?
Britain has been turned into a laughingstock for the rest of the world. This is not a good look for Great Britain, as no nation seems to respect us anymore. Keir Starmer and his cronies are so incredibly weak and useless that they've humiliated all of us on the global stage. Starmer's own lawyer friend is bragging on live TV about betraying Britain. If that isn't disgusting, then what is?
So my big question is, what's going on here? Why is Keir Starmer so obsessed with giving away key British overseas territory, handing over billions of your taxpayer cash in the process, in a legal wrangle that involves his good friend acting on behalf of the other party? Let's see what our transparent British Labour government has to say about it all. Oh yeah, silly me. Absolutely nothing. Zilch.
Everything brings us to the impossible question that nobody can seem to answer. Just what is going on in stupid Starmer's head? He seems to be living in some sort of delusional fantasy land where woke politics and socialism reign supreme. Either way, in reality, this policy doesn't make a shred of sense, and if Starmer had any shame, he'd bin it without a second thought. It's not just the British public that's furious about it. Foreign leaders are now bashing Starmer and his cronies as well. You won't believe what the ex-Prime Minister of Australia had to say about the matter.
Do you have a view on this Chagos Islands giveaway? Because the idea of spending £18 billion on it and then having a massive black hole in the defence budget seems to me to be rather contradictory.
Why do you have to buy what you've already got?
I don't know.
I mean, if you already own it, why do you have to buy it? And this is an absurd situation. I mean, Diego Garcia has been unquestionably British territory.
It's not just that we're giving the islands away, it's that we're then going to hand over billions every year to get access to it. Mind you, the Chagos Islands are incredibly important for British security, as there are military bases there. Losing access to them could be a complete disaster that could end up giving the communist China the upper hand. In fact, China is more involved in this matter than you'd think.
Also, we found out that one of the officials ruling on that judgment in the court was linked to the Chinese Communist Party. Oh, what a coincidence, Mr. Abbott.
Well, Camilla, this is the problem. I mean, in countries like Britain and Australia, we think of international courts as if they are the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council.
Yes.
They are not courts of justice. They are courts of politics.
Either Starmer's stupid or genuinely way out of his depth for him to be seriously considering this deal. The international committees do not have authority over us and cannot force us to hand over the Chagos Islands that rightfully belong to Britain. Now, we're learning that the Chinese Communist Party is involved in all of this mess. If they're pulling the strings behind the scenes, then Starmer is playing right into their hands.
And we should be determined to do justice. We should be determined to be decent. But that doesn't mean we should be the slaves of these global tribunals.
Yes. On Trump in general, what do you make of his first month in office?
He's a force of nature. It's probably been the most spectacularly active start to any presidency ever.
The one lesson Starmer refuses to learn is that we're not bound to these international bodies that hand out arbitrary judgments that are not always in our best interest. If anything, we've been plenty decent and just when dealing with such matters, but enough is enough. The public demands Starmer to draw a line instead of letting them rob us dry. However, Starmer is too weak-willed to take a strong stand. He would rather bend the knee than speak up for what is right. Trump is exactly what Starmer wishes he was, and the contrast couldn't be clearer between the two.
The threat that I worry about most, the threat that I worry the most about vis-à-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external factor. What I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. I mean, on one hand, I think we can appreciate what he's saying. He was particularly critical of Britain, where he says that free speech has been suppressed. But equally, is it a good idea to have the deputy leader of the free world, as it's known, attacking Western allies on a global stage?
As if domestic humiliation wasn't enough, Starmer and his cronies are being ridiculed by America as well now. Europe has been dealing with this disease of wokeness for a while, and we've lost our identity in the process. The biggest threat to Britain's future is this woke liberal virus that Starmer is peddling, and until we solve that first, we won't be seeing any positive change.
Western allies, a few necessary home truths. I mean, the truth is that in Europe, and indeed in Britain, people are scared of voters, people are scared of free speech.
The shameful and disgusting truth here is that Starmer and his cronies have been trying their absolute best to censor us. They're afraid of the truth, but the harder they try to gaslight and manipulate the electorate, the harder it backfires for them. It's a complete disgrace for the Labour Party that they're hunting down people for saying mean things on the internet and letting actually heinous criminals go uncharged and unpunished.
I mean, this is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, our societies are built on democratic freedoms where people are able to vote for the candidates they wish to elect, built on free speech, built on the rule of law, not lawyers. And these are under massive attack.
What we're witnessing is total and absolute madness from all around Europe. Starmer is behaving as if he's just a mouthpiece for the liberal elite, and the whole situation reads like a bad dystopian novel. The Labour Party is treating the Brits worse than third world dictators, and the public has had enough. They cannot take our democratic freedoms, and the working class Brits will not tolerate these betrayals. In fact, many of them are already mounting a furious backlash, and you can help out with this quest for accountability by liking this video and subscribing to the channel.